Wow, 2024 is turning out to be a big year for new coasters. Earlier this week, we got several new coaster announcements, including one project that will be talked about for decades to come. Good Gravy coming to Holiday World looks awesome and is definitely one of the most anticipated coasters for next year. I mean, you're riding in a gravy boat. Tell me that's not going to be awesome. I bet you $100 Good Gravy is going to be the most talked about coaster at Hollywood Nights next year. Oh, and I almost forgot. Cedar Point also announced the dragster replacement. In all seriousness, Top Thrill 2 is Cedar Point's 2024 redo of the legendary Top Thrill Dragster. Top Thrill Dragster opened in 2003 and was the tallest and fastest coaster in the world at the time. Despite its short length, it quickly became a fan favorite. So on August 15th, 2021, when a woman was hit in the head by a piece of metal that came off the ride while she was waiting in line, many people became worried about what the future of this ride would be. And before I say anything else, I'd like to note that this is a horrible tragedy and should have never happened. Luckily, the woman did survive, but she does have life-altering disabilities, and I'd like to applaud Cedar Point for closing the ride in respect for the lady, even though they were not found responsible for the incident. It was no secret that Top Thrill Dragster was a reliability headache for the park, so when Cedar Point announced that in late 2021 that not only would it be closed for the remainder of the 2021 season, but also the 2022 season, people knew that something was up. We were sure that the hydraulic launch would be removed, because that was the cause of most of the downtime, and that it would probably be replaced with a much more reliable LSM launch. But would they extend the super short layout? Would they take back the height record and make it taller? These were all speculated until August 1st, 2023, when Cedar Point shocked nobody. Since all the stats were leaked by the ride's new manufacturer, Zamperla, a few days prior, we all already knew what was going to happen to the ride, so the announcement was kind of pointless. But the other big question was that why would they do this? This whole thing just seems pointless. It looks like Cedar Point was going around to asking manufacturers what they could do, and Zamperla said they could add an LSM launch and put a 420-foot vertical spike with new trains and a Wild Mouse coaster included, all for half the price of what anyone else would have done. I am seriously impressed with how Zamperla managed to get Cedar Point to go with them, because there was no way that Cedar Point was just like, you know who could redo our 420-foot tall coaster? The Kiddie Coaster and Flat Rides Company. It's not like they've tried to build big coasters and have done absolutely horrible at it. And I know Zamperla has changed a lot since the era of Volares and knockoff Eurofighters with hexagon wheels, but they haven't proven that they can build good and smooth coasters. Yeah, I'm almost positive that these new models are definitely a step up, but why would Cedar Point want to take the risk? The whole point of this project is to make the ride more reliable and maybe to throw in a few extra elements so people don't feel cheated when they wait 45 minutes for a 15-second ride experience, but mostly for better reliability. So why wouldn't they go with a manufacturer that's proven themselves and one that we know that will do a good job at the refurbishment? We all know that Cedar Point didn't go with Intamin because they don't work with them anymore, but Intamin has changed a lot in the last 10-15 years, and even Cedar Point representatives have been rumored to go to Islands of Adventure and ride Velocicoaster and be seriously impressed. So maybe this would have been a perfect time to rekindle their relationship with Intamin. Well, Intamin also probably would have cost a lot more money than Zamperla would have. But now the deal has already been made, so now all we can do is hope that it will be more reliable, because Zamperla's latest coaster, Wild Mouse, also at Cedar Point, did have a lot of downtime when it first opened. So the fact that this is a completely new ride model, unlike anything they've ever built before, while Wild Mouse is basically a glorified version of a model they've built over 40 times, yeah, that's a little worrying. I'm almost positive that Top Thrill 2 will actually have a lot of downtime when it first opens, but hopefully it's not long term like Top Thrill Dragster was and they can work out the kinks within the first, let's say, year. Anyway, now let's go over the ride itself and how it's different from its predecessor. First off is the name, Top Thrill 2. Many people don't like it, but I think it's alright. I was hoping that they'd give a nod to Dragster and not completely change the name, so I like it. I still think Top Thrill Dragster was a better name, and while Top Thrill 2 isn't the best, I do approve. My only problem with it is that if you told a random person on the street that the name of the coaster was Top Thrill 2, they'd have absolutely no idea what the coaster is about. It really only makes sense if you know the whole backstory to the ride. So I'd give the name a C. Not great, but not a horrible name like some people say. I also like the colors way better than the original Dragster. I think the mustard color is way overused on coasters, and I always liked the red and white track and was confused why they only had it on the launch track and halfway up the top hat, so I like that they are changing the kinda ugly yellow color for much better and fitting gray supports. However, I still wish that they just did the alternating red and white track along the entirety of the track. The all white on the bottom and then the red and white alternating on the top of the top hat and the spike still looks better than it used to look, but why can't they just do the alternating along the entire track? I don't know, it looks odd, but it still looks better, so I can't complain. Now let's go over the layout. Top Thrill 2 will leave the station and then you'll turn onto the track via a fast transfer track. I wonder where that idea came from. Then you hit your first launch reaching 74 miles per hour. Now that's great, but my one problem I have with this ride being a swing launch, and this would be a problem if it was an Intamin too, is that this launch track is very long, like very long, because it was built for a launch that goes from 0 to 120 miles per hour. So putting a 0 to 74 in the same amount as a 0 to 120 would need means that this launch probably won't be very powerful. I was hoping that maybe they could add like a speed hill or something to take up some of that launch track, but no. We're just going to go from one of the best launches in the world to something that matches the intensity of Copperhead Strike's first launch at best. Which, don't get me wrong, is still a good launch. Copperhead Strike's first launch is really good. I actually really like it, but it is a bummer that they are basically ruining the best part of the ride. And this first launch will probably still be good, but I wish they could have made it faster. 74 miles per hour is not fast enough to make it that far up the top hat. Everyone was excited to be a guaranteed rollback every ride, but judging by the animation, it doesn't even look like the train will make it vertical before falling back down, hitting the backwards launch, reaching a top speed of 101 miles per hour, and climbing up the 420-foot spike. 420 feet. That sounds familiar. Oh, it's because it's the same height as the top hat. Cedar Point had the chance to take back the height record from King to Ka, but the question was if they'd want to make it super tall. Well, the answer is yes, they did make it super tall, but for absolutely no reason. Nobody cares whether the spike is 420 feet or 250 feet tall. All we wanted was the height of Dragster be taller than it already was, and would it really have been that much harder just to add another 35 feet to the spike? Good gravy, Cedar Point. It will still be cool flying up 420 feet up the spike and getting a nice view of the lake, the rest of the park, the top hat, etc. And it also will be cool having that visual of that 420-foot spike because that will add more to Cedar Point's already amazing skyline. And walking down the midway, it'll be really cool to see that 420-foot spike. I think visually a twisted spike would have been cooler to look at, but the vertical spike would have been cooler on ride. So I was kind of indifferent on whichever one they went with, but I do think the straight spike does fit more with the theme, I guess. I don't know. It'll be cool flying up 420 feet, but I still wish that they would have just taken that chance and just gone a little higher. Also, one more thing is that the second launch only reaches 101 miles per hour, while the third launch reaches 120 miles per hour to get over the top hat. So if the spike is the same height as the top hat, I'm curious to see how high up the train will actually make it up the spike. Probably still pretty high, but I don't think it's gonna... I don't really think we're gonna be getting that amazing rollback that everybody was hoping for. But you will still be free falling for about 350 feet, so I can't complain. It'll still be really great. Then you hit your third launch, hitting a top speed of 120 miles per hour, the same top speed as the OG Dragster, still making it the third fastest roller coaster in the world. The good news, you still probably have a chance at getting a rollback since it's the same top speed as the original Dragster. The bad news is that you probably won't even notice the acceleration of this launch. 100 to 120 miles per hour in like 3 seconds, you probably will barely be able to feel it. However, it will still be pretty amazing because that entire time for 3-4 seconds, you will still be going over 100 miles per hour. So that will be something that you cannot get on any other coaster out there. This will really let Top Thrill 2 showcase its speed, something that many roller coasters don't have the chance to do. So overall, yes, I do think this will be really good, and I'm very happy to see Dragster coming back for the 2024 season, but I also find it a little disappointing. I think me and many others were thinking that it would be a huge deal, for instance, taking the height record, or just something that like they'd replace the launch and then just call it a day. Both of which would have been better scenarios, but I still can't say I'm not excited for this ride because it still does look really good. So while this isn't exactly what we all hoped for, it is still pretty cool. Free falling for several seconds looking straight down will be still a really cool experience, and it is still the world's tallest spike, and spikes are really fun. But if they would have just made that first launch hit 100 miles per hour, which would have also made the launch more punchy and like the original Dragster launch, and to give you more or less a true rollback, then add maybe an airtime pop somewhere on the launch track, then Top Thrill 2 would have been a worthy successor in my eyes. So what are your thoughts on this controversial announcement by Cedar Point? You can write your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like to see more analyses and videos just in general like this, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And with all that said, make sure to have a thrilling rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.